Day 63.
of the 29th year and beyond. And today we're going to talk about families and kids.
Families and kids.
Work.
Okay.
And how you juggle it.
It is a juggling act.
Yeah, it used to be where dad went out the house, mom stayed home, and now sometimes it's reversed because of the hours. I mean, everything goes 24/7. Internet's on, we got 24/7 news channels. Everything goes nonstop. And so now a lot of times a father might work in the evening, he might work on the weekends, and so
he may work from home.
Or he may work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's there with the kids while mom may be out of the house, you know. So the roles sometimes seem a little twisted and a little confused, but I think it works for the good of the children. I really do, when they're able to stay at home. And that's my personal opinion.
Okay. It just depends. If you're talking about fathers being able to have an opportunity to bond with their children, first and foremost, I think that it has to be something that one is intentional about doing. Because you can work at home, or you could work a third shift and be home during the day. It really doesn't matter as far as proximity to children if the priority isn't children.
Yeah, agreed.
So it's not just about proximity. It has to be priority. And that has to be something that I personally believe has to be intentional. You know, growing up, my dad worked, he worked an 8-hour job, 8-hour day job. And then he had his own taxi, where in the evenings he would go out and drive. So he worked a lot. He had to provide for 7 children. And even as a kid, I understood why he worked so much. However, but I needed my dad. And I valued the time that I got to spend with him. So whether it was just sitting with him watching an old Western, whether it was going with him, to the grocery store or something, it didn't matter what we were doing or if we were doing anything. I valued that. But what that did for me was heighten my awareness that if, I became an adult and had children, I wanted to be intentional about making sure I did spend the time with my children.
Yeah, and I agree. I believe that I applaud the families that make the choice sometimes to take the odd shifts and to do the different things so that someone can be at home with their children, so they're not being shuffled from place to place, because a lot of times that leaves a child feeling very empty and very lost. So in this interesting world that we live in, there are men that are combing hair and feeding kids while the wives are out of the house. And we had a neighbor when we first moved in our complex where we live at. She was a nurse and she worked the weekend shift. She worked sun up to sundown Saturday and Sunday, and she was home all during the week. And her husband stepped in on roles on the weekend. So the family looks different than it did maybe years ago, but I think it's in a lot of cases it's for the better. I think that you find that a lot of fathers are more involved in the raising of their children, and are sometimes making the difficult decisions to sort of step back and push their wives a little forward and maybe take an odd shift or do something different so that the kids are being cared for by the people that love them most.
Well, interestingly enough, though, just the reverse. You have a lot of women now that are pretty much detached.
Yeah.
And so, again, it doesn't matter about what type of work one does, what type of parent, because I think traditionally people think, well, women are much more nurturing, and you can have women that are not nurturers. Trust me when I tell you that, and you can have men that are, and vice versa. So, I mean, instead of like placing assignments and roles, I think that you're on to what's really key is both parents being intentional about loving and supporting and laying a foundation with their children so that they are comfortable with being able to share stuff with them, because you want, I believe, at least for us, we wanted our children to be able to come to us with anything and to trust us, and so that we could give them wise counsel. Even if it was situations where we disagreed about things or weren't pleased about things, we wanted them to know that first and foremost, we love them and we were there for them.
So yes, I just want to applaud the families that are maybe doing it differently and loving and putting their children first. And that's really all I want to say.
Until tomorrow, if the Lord says the same.
Thanks. Bye.